Wait a second. Now, I had the pleasure to fill in for my friend Eric today at Brooklyn College on this course about New York. Is it New York City history? What was it? What's the title?
This is called the Lower East Side Melting Pot.
The Melting Pot. And as Eric lived up to his promise, he said there's all kinds of fascinating people here who have all kinds of memories. And I'm here with this young man who
thank you for that.
And who told me that he his father went to Seward Park. And who taught at 188? Your wife?
My wife taught at public school.
Okay. And where did you live? And you lived at 107 Stanton Street. Now let me see. I think that's between Norfolk and Suffolk, around there?
Yeah, around there. My grandmother lived at Norfolk,
Right.
nearby.
Do you remember a store, a toy store on Clinton Street called Cheap Heshies?
I couldn't because I moved when I was 4 years old.
Oh, so you don't remember that. So you didn't go to school down there.
No. But we visited many times.
Right. Did you go back there to buy sour pickles from Gus?
Yes, Gus's pickles.
Right.
The best.
Now there's hardly any pickle places there.
No, not too many kosher
Right.
restaurants either.
So
You do have.
so when did your father go to Seward?
My father was born in 1908, so he went there. And
So he was one of the first people to go there.
12 years old to Ellis Island. He was about 1920 or so. He must have gone in the 20s.
Right, because it was built sort of around then because there was so much overcrowding. My father graduated, and I think in 1937 or 38, but he didn't go into the building until maybe he was a junior or a sophomore because it was so crowded. He had to go to an annex, I think, on PS 31 or something like that. So yeah, so I think you know of all the famous people that went to
I know some of the very famous
Seward.
people who grew up in the...
Tony Curtis went there.
Tony Curtis, Bernie Schwartz, that's right. And you mentioned Paul Mooney, Mooney Weissenfront, Edward G. Robinson, Edmund Goldenberg.
That's right.
I think some of the Supreme Court justices also came from there. If
Oh.
I'm mistaken, and like Felix Frankfurter may have come from there.
I don't know, but Jacob Javits did.
Jacob Javits, that's right.
Yeah, some of the justices. I forget which ones in particular. Then great songwriters.
Great songwriter.
Sammy Kahn.
Irving Berlin must have come from that area, no?
He was further down, like down by Cherry Street. And then the guy that wrote Tea for Two, Irving Caesar.
Irving Caesar.
He's from the Lower East Side. Yip Harburg. And a guy who was in his 90s, and they just had a roast for him. The Friars went to Seward. Mickey Freeman.
Mickey Freeman, I remember, that's right.
You know, who from the Bilko show, he played Zimmerman.
Sergeant Bilko, that's right.
And in fact, Joey Ross went to Seward Park. I think like Phil Silvers hired all his old friends or something because they were all characters. Like there was Paparella and Harvey Lembeck.
And then you had the jewelry exchange.
Right.
My
Oh,
father,
that's right. So your father,
was a jeweler, watchmaker. He had his own showcase there. He had a showcase.
for 55 years, you said.
About 55 years. At 76 Bowery.
Right.
It was on the corner. Was I believe it was a Fabricant, a Wallack's Exchange, I think. They all moved afterwards to Madison to
47th Street.
Maiden Lane, and from Maiden Lane, right, they went up to 47, West
Right.
47th Street. That was the transition there. And now it's mostly Chinese, that area. If you look in that area, which was, those years we're talking about mostly Jewish, Italian, and Irish, to speak. But you go now, one store after another.
Oh, yeah.
is
But there's
Chinese.
still a jewelry exchange in that slot, you know, on that corner. Yeah.
But the bulk of the jewelers and watchmakers have moved, as you said.
Right.
Now they're in West 47th
Well,
Street.
there was a store that I used to go to, you know, or people went for watches and pens called Benny's, who was on Eldred Street and Canal, and that's torn down. You said you went down to the Elder Synagogue.
Yeah, we were there not
But
long
if
ago.
you
And
see
the
on the
museum,
corner,
Southern Museum.
it's all like they knocked that down. I guess they're going to put something up there, and that's where Benny's was. And it's interesting. Some of my friends, from KV guys, we went to see this picture together called The Last New Yorker, and it came out around a month ago. It starred Dominic Chianese, who played Uncle Junior in The Sopranos. And so he's a guy who's living in New York, and he's, upset about all the changes, and then he goes and visits some of his people who he knows in these storefronts. So he goes into Benny's, and then he goes into this luncheonette, I forget the name of it, that's been there for many, many years on, like around 22nd Street. And then he goes into another, a store that makes suits on Orchard Street. So, but since that movie was made, some of these stores are no longer around either.
But people have come from all over New Jersey and so
Right.
on, the island, to shop on Orchard Street.
Right.
They go for fabrics over there.
Right.
Very
But now it's
nice.
like a different kind of thing. It's not so much dry goods like when my mother went shopping, it was for underwear
Right.
and other dry goods. And so now people coming for fancy fabrics and, sort of high-end stuff.
That's right. Okay.
All right. Thank you
It's a
so much
pleasure
for
talking.
sharing this. And,
Pleasure being here today.
go on, my website. There's interesting stuff.